I went into Galaxy Unpacked this year with so much hope that Samsung would finally make the S26 Ultra a very good upgrade. I was hoping they would give us everything that we wanted and maybe surprise us just a little bit as well. But instead, Samsung gave us minimal upgrades, more Galaxy AI that no one's asking for, and kind of missed the boat on a few other things. I'm Paul, and after using the S26 Ultra for a couple of weeks, I've got some thoughts on this. This video is sponsored by Warframe, which I'll get to a little later on. Usually with these reviews, I would start with all the changes to the phone. I would go through what is exciting me and what I've used a lot, but sadly, this phone doesn't do anything special. There are phones that are already out there and coming in 2026 that have some really cool things going for them. At MWC, I saw the Vivo X300 Ultra that had a whole camera rig to it, which is maybe a little bit gimmicky. But there are some phones that have something a little bit more practical, like 1-inch sensors. But this year, Samsung played it safe, and there really isn't a whole lot to be that excited about. Let me start with parts of this phone that I have liked. Finally, we get fast charging. Oppo, Honor, Vivo have had this for years, and while Samsung is a little late to the party, they make sure that I won't be late to anything with its 60-watt charging speeds. We've done some testing on the S26 Ultra, and what'll happen is in probably less than 30 minutes, you plug this phone in and it'll get you to that 75%. And actually, even with a quick 10-15 minute charge, this is getting you to 50%. So I'm all here for this. It's usually one of my favorite parts of almost any other phone, so I'm glad that Samsung are finally on board. Another favourite thing of the S26 Ultra is its very slight redesign. Granted, this is not huge, but I like the more rounded feel of the S26 Ultra. And to go with that, the phone being a little bit lighter is just a nice thing to have. Although this silver colour that I have is a fingerprint magnet, I don't know if you can see them all over here, but yeah, it loves to gather a fingerprint. The other big update is classic Samsung. This is that privacy display, and it is Samsung doing what they do best and flexing the fact that it can still innovate. They're giving us something here that no other phone has ever given us. I know a lot of people will like this so it can hide banking apps and notifications, but I can't figure out whether this is just a little bit too gimmicky yet, because I've had it off the entire time on my S26 Ultra because I just don't really like the fact that it darkens the screen. Having said that people really like this, there are actually enough reports doing the rounds that the privacy display is actually causing a load of eye strain, even to a point where people are sending this phone back. So if you've had an issue with that, let me know in the comments. Oh, and also, tech top tip, while I said that I like the design of this one, it is a little bit more prone to scratches. I've dropped this 3 or 4 times, I know, I'm sorry, I didn't have a case on, and I've already got some scuffs on the camera and some other places, so just be careful with this. Let's move on to its cameras. For me, this is still the best point and shoot on a phone that you can get inside of the US. I know people will argue that the Pixel is better, but I've always preferred the colours and the vibe of what Samsung phones give off. There's nothing that I love more than a telephoto camera on a phone, and with that faster aperture, Samsung have given this quite a nice upgrade. This just means at night, it can capture more light and give you a more usable, detailed photo overall, and it does a good job. But I just love a Samsung 5x lens, and the 50 megapixels I feel like gives me enough sharpness to be more than happy with the photos about 90% of the time. In daylight, the cameras, they still give you that punchy Samsung look, even if they do seem to be slightly toned down a bit this year. The same can also be said for that 200 megapixel main camera, and while it hasn't changed too much, getting a new aperture of f1.4 has been a nice upgrade. It gives it a noticeable difference when you get into those darker situations, and maybe it's not like an upgrade your phone worthy upgrade, but equally this is a nice to have. Again, photos are great, dynamic range, it kills it on the Ultra, and I love the colour that Samsung put into that main lens. It leans on being a little bit too saturated, but I love some saturation. And then I can't not talk about horizontal lock, which uses both the main and the ultra wide. This keeps your horizon steady no matter how much you're moving as you film. Do I like it? Yes, I think it is very cool. Have I used it other than for this video? No. But sometimes it's okay to have little gimmicks like this. And this just brings me on to the video in general for the S26 Ultra. On all of its lenses, I think this is what an Ultra Android phone is all about. This is the closest that you can get to the annoyingly good quality on an iPhone. That main lens's stabilization is just superb. There's nothing that even comes close to it. You use that 5x lens and videos just look so nice, especially if you get that light just right. Just the colors you get from Samsung on the S26 Ultra, yeah, they are very nice. I haven't taken too much video on the ultra-wide yet, but it seems to me that this ultra-wide just feels a little bit sharper, a little bit brighter than it did on the S25 Ultra. And I have to mention the fact that you can record in log and use the APV codec for that high quality video that you can get for editing. I've barely used this, and I don't think most people will use it, but this is what an Ultra Android phone should be all about, and this is why the S26 Ultra, when it comes to video, is just top of the tree. Another reason that the S26 Ultra is always one of the best Android phones to get is just because of its raw power. There's an argument to say here that the Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5 for Galaxy makes the S26 Ultra the best Android phone for like anything. If that's exporting 4K videos, multitasking, or sitting down and enjoying a few games. I've been playing loads of games on the S26 Ultra, and I've been playing one that I've never played before called Warframe. Warframe has officially launched on the Google Play Store, bringing an incredible 13 years worth of free content, including the brand new spring update, the Shadowgrapher. And I wanted to see whether the S26 Ultra could handle a proper AAA style game. Even at its highest graphics settings, I've been able to enjoy this sci-fi third-person action game at a constant 60 FPS. The anti-reflective coating of the S26 Ultra is also very handy when gaming, and it really highlights the game's UI, and that is being specifically reworked for mobile. I can see my mods bench in Arsenal UI without any screen glare. I also love being able to customize the character from different colors to completely different outfits. What I found very useful in Warframe was the all-new auto aim assist, because my aim is pretty bad. The auto aim and auto fire feature have been a lifesaver. You can pair a controller via USB or Bluetooth as well for a more traditional gaming experience, but I've been getting on just fine with these touch controls. They are really responsive and pretty intuitive. Warframe supports full cross-platform play. This is the sort of game the S26 Ultra can breeze through. You might be doing cross-platform co-op play with up to 3 friends online, or hopping into that solo experience to explore the massive open world and collect and customize over 60 warframes and 600 weapons. If you have picked up an S26 Ultra and really want to push it to the limits, or you've got a 64-bit Android device with Android 12 or higher and at least 4 gigs of RAM, then check out the link in the description to try out Warframe today. And if you do, make sure you enter the promo code in the description before April 23rd, so you can get your hands on a free Zylock pistol, Wolf Howl emote, and a 3-day affinity booster. For all the good on the S26 Ultra, Samsung did fumble bits of this phone. The battery, it's the same one that we've seen forever, and while it gets me through a day, it only gets me through a day. My biggest disappointment with the S26 Ultra though is there's no Qi 2 magnets built into the back. I know Samsung never suggested that they would add Qi 2 magnets, but after Google did it, we all just kind of assumed they would, and it's so frustrating that they didn't. This means I need a case again, which isn't the end of the world, but because of the new camera design, it means that any of the Qi 2 power banks or accessories like card holders, they just don't fit. And then there is the Samsung persistence that Galaxy AI is the future, when it really isn't. In the few weeks I've had the phone, I honestly can't tell you one time that I've used anything Galaxy AI. There is a lot of useful AI for things like Now Nudge, but that's locked behind Samsung's keyboard, and that keyboard is the worst keyboard you can get, so I just don't use it. At Galaxy Unpacked, I remember a big part on stage where they were pushing people to add pets to photos that weren't ever there, and I've tried it, it's cool, but it's not real, and I just kind of don't like that. Turning a photo from day to night, it's very impressive, but again, it's not real. I just wish that Samsung would stop thinking that we always want the perfect photo, because actually I just don't think we do, and at some point I think that imperfection is going to be the new perfection. I would rather have something that's grainy and maybe a little bit blurry, but I captured a moment. I don't want this perfect AI driven photo. It's just not for me. The problem with the S26 Ultra this year is that it feels no different to the S25 Ultra, the S24 Ultra, or even the S23 Ultra, which I've already done a whole video about, and if you want to watch that one, you can watch that just here. Small tweaks are nice occasionally, but Samsung have been doing this for far too long. The APV codec is nice, The privacy display is very cool, but there's something about this phone that just seems boring. It doesn't excite me. There isn't a lot to complain about, but there also isn't a lot to praise. This feels exactly the same as the last few generations of Ultra. Don't get me wrong, it's a solid phone, and it's probably going to be in my pocket for a lot of the year just because of its video quality. And I mean, it's probably still the best Android phone that you can get inside of the US, but outside of the US, this is not that exciting. It's just a fine phone, and Samsung are going to get to a point really where they're going to have to catch up because Chinese brands are going to leave them way behind. Let me know your thoughts though on the S26 Ultra. I feel like I've been a little bit harsh to the phone, but also I don't really have a lot to say about it. Like, there isn't anything massively positive and there's nothing really that negative. Let me know in the comments. Before you head off, if you can subscribe to the channel before you head off, I would massively appreciate it. And if you do that, then I'll see you in the next one.